Hey everyone, my name is Pablo Valdes. I'm a previous software engineer intern at NVIDIA, and I'm currently a junior studying computer science at FIU. So I'm a professional vibe coder. Some of my favorite tools are Git and of course ChatGPT. And a fun fact about me is my last name is Valdez with an S. All right, so let's get into the workshop. So what is vibe coding? Should you be afraid of it or should you embrace it, right? So a lot of developers, especially new ones, don't like using AI just because it feels like cheating, right? But the important part is that you could use AI as long as you kind of understand what the code is doing, right? So nowadays you're more like kind of like an architect, right? So you're kind of thinking of what you want to build and the AI can help you build it, right? So this is a funny example where this guy on Twitter, X, was essentially building like some software as a service type thing. So he could it's like a little business, right? And he built it with Cursor, which if you don't know is an AI integrated editor. So kind of like VS Code, but with AI. And he wrote no code, right? So zero handwritten code. And he made money for it. He said, yes, people pay for it. And then a couple tweets later, he said, guys, I'm under attack. Ever since I showed this, random things were happening to my app. So essentially, people were exploiting his code and his application. And that's because there's no review at all, right? So if you just kind of let AI do whatever it wants, you open yourself to potential issues and vulnerabilities in your code. There could be optimization issues, security issues. So it's important that you can understand at least the code that AI generates so you could have an idea what it's doing and if it's actually good code or not. So in this case, he didn't get good code, right? And another important thing is that you have a great understanding of Git when you do vibe coding because AI is going to be making a lot of changes for you. So when those changes are good, you want to save it. And when those changes are bad, you don't want to save that, right? So you want to be able to go back to your good changes when AI gives you bad changes, right? So you want to have a good understanding of Git so you could actually do that. There's even tutorials by Microsoft on how to do vibe coding because vibe coding is like a funny term, but it's actually kind of a new way of coding, right? Where people just use AI for most of it and they kind of think of the concepts. And I'll give you an example. I had this project that I needed to do, which was essentially like homework for a class. And how I did it, like I did it in about, if I look at my Git repo, right? If you have your Git repo, you could kind of see when you did these changes. Usually you'll see timestamps on GitHub. But essentially I did these changes all in like a day, right? And I was able to do that because I used AI to help me code and essentially help improve that progress. So if you can understand what you need to do and you understand it really well, then you're able to just have AI assist you. So I kind of knew what I needed to do. So for this, it's kind of like if I start this project up, npm run dev, it is starting our development server and it's exposing it on port 3000. So this is a very simple project, just like for a homework assignment. So essentially you could add items to the cart, you could pay, and you could see all those transactions, and you could do like some analysis on it, some data mining analysis. You could load some CSV data. And so I was able to do this really quickly because this is actually fairly complex because it has a lot of algorithms going on. I was able to do it quickly because I knew kind of the main idea of how to do it and what parts I'd need. So I knew based on like the requirements I had, it has to be kind of like e-commerce type app, right? And then based on transactions that user makes, we'll do some analysis on that. So I was able to kind of structure it like that. And I'm using Next.js in this project here. I guess a lot of vibe coders like to use this tech stack, like Next.js and TypeScript and Tailwind CSS, which if you're not familiar with, I'll zoom in here. So Tailwind CSS is it's a vibe coder's favorite tool because it lets AI easily generate styles for your app inline, right? So with classes, you could add utility styles, and these have underlying CSS features like dot flex is the equivalent of display flex. And so it's really easy for an AI to just add those to whatever code you have and generate it. And TypeScript just makes it clear for the AI because if you have types, it's more explicit what your code is doing. And when you put that into AI, it gives it more context essentially on what's going on. A tool I like to use a lot, like let's say I have all these files, right? And I want maybe some AI to review them. I might do shift click. So control click is like single file, shift click is multiple files, but I can't really get all the stuff out of these files, right? I'd have to go inside of each of them and do like control C or something. There's this extension called copy text of selected files, and this is very useful because it gives you this new ability right here, which I don't know if you can see it, but it says copy content of selected files. So if you download this extension for GitHub, I mean VS Code right here, you search copy text of selected files. When you click a file right here, you click multiple, you could do copy content of selected files. And this is really easy to let you paste all this right here, right? So it lets you paste, it copies it in such a way that it shows like the file location. So like say front end index.ts, right? So it shows the entire directory to your file. So it not only gives the code for all those files and the language, it shows the directory they're in, and that's really useful because you're able to give the AI more context, right? And then you could just write whatever you want, right? So like maybe explain why this works or what's going on here, something like that. In case you don't have to be like an expert at this. If you really wanted to, you could just have like AI review the code that AI generates for you, right? And you could have like a whole pipeline for this if you know how to use AI agents, which that's like that's something entirely different. But there's many different ways many different chatbots you could use to do this. I think some really good ones are Gemini because it has extremely long context. And what context is well, input. So you could put a lot more stuff into Gemini than you could into ChatGPT. Another useful editor or chatbot is Claude. So Claude and Gemini are like my go-to for coding. ChatGPT is also good, but these two are very good. They're kind of designed for that, I feel like. And so I use those a lot for that. As long as you have like I guess, architectural knowledge to figure out what you're trying to build. But if you don't have that, you could also ask AI, hey, I want to build, let's actually do that, right? Let's build something. So what might we want to build? Brian, do you have any suggestions?
Or you and do you know how to do web scraping or find an API for web scraping?
Web scraping?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
maybe you can do a web scraping app and use that data for the stock prices. So that way you can see how the market has been behaving the last 3 months.
Got it. Yeah, all right. So let's try to do some web scraping with I think a good place to get stock prices is maybe Yahoo Finance. And I think we could search for a ticker. Hey, look, it's Jensen. All right, so this is really good structure for web scraping because it has a very clear URL. You could just change it. Let's say Lululemon. You can see all that. And then maybe we could get the stock price right here and the percent change and all of that. So let's try and do a web scraping app that gets stock prices from Yahoo Finance. And we'll just vibe code all of this, right? So first step is let's make a folder. So we'll call it stocks dash web UI. You could call this whatever you want. I'll just call it that. We'll open this. All right, so we have an empty project folder. Now what? So this app, we don't really need to have a back end. We could all do this on the front end. So I'll just use Next.js install. So I'll go on the website and right here, npm. So if you don't know what npm is, you could just install that with Node.js. And npm lets you download packages from the web. So like Next.js is a code package with a lot of stuff to help you build websites. And you could just install that using this command. So let's open the terminal in VS Code. I just did a control tilde for that. And I'll paste the command. I'll call this project just client because there's the front end. I'll put my settings here. So I'm just going to use TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, and app router. We'll wait for it to install. All right, great. So now we'll cd into that. So cd client. So this means change directory. So right now we're in this directory, stocks web UI. So we're going to go in the client directory. And now that we're here, we'll do npm run dev. I think everything is installed already. Yep. So this is running on port 3001 because we already have another instance open here. We'll just close that. All right, so now we have essentially all this boilerplate code from Next.js. So we really don't need much of this. All these SVGs we don't really need. This git ignore will keep. This readme, I'll just get rid of it. This is just how I like to do things. This favicon, I could get rid of it too. And then I'll just clear all these styles they made. I'll just leave this font family style. And all right, so I removed all the styles and a bunch of the images, so that's why this looks like this. And now on this layout, I'll just remove these fonts. I just like to clean it up. We'll call this project title web scraping, or let's just call it stock app. And so this is using TypeScript. So that's what this wacky syntax is. I'll just put it all on one line just because it looks cleaner to me. Okay. I'll just clean up these styles. Put this all on one line. And so the children of this is this page.tsx. So in Next.js, the layout wraps all these children, and the children is this page.tsx. So this is essentially the root of our website. You could call this anything. By default, they just call it home. All of this right here is just boilerplate. You don't really need that. We could just remove it. We can remove all these styles as well. So now we have an empty web page. We'll just, for the whole website, right? So we have the body, we'll just make the background. We could do that in Tailwind CSS using BG dash white. And we'll make all the text dash black. So this is going to apply to all the children, these styles. And then we could add whatever we want, right? So this, so kind of like regular HTML, CSS, we could write hello. And then you can see it right here, right? Really small. If you know Tailwind, you could edit this. You could do control space. So you could get suggestions if you have this extension, which is if you know what IntelliSense is, you could have that for Tailwind CSS. So you could have Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. So you could kind of see kind of recommendations, right? So I could easily figure out, okay, what are the styles here? So if I want to make this text large or if I want to make it bold, font dash bold, it'll give me recommendations. Or you could go on the Tailwind CSS documentation. So next, when you make a new Next.js project, it automatically installs Tailwind CSS if you want that. And you could go on the Tailwind CSS docs to kind of figure out how to do things. So you could just search for like regular CSS properties if you know those. So maybe like width. And then you could just see all the utility classes for that you could apply to your code. But we're not here to code. We're here to vibe code, right? So let's just do that, right? I don't care about Tailwind CSS. The AI is trained on all that, so I don't need to know it. I can understand it. That's good. So I know it's doing stuff right, and I could make small changes if I want to. Okay, so most important thing is the prompt. Well, if you're doing this is actually kind of a small project, but if you're doing a bigger one, right, you want to have a plan. So you might talk to the AI about that, right? How might we do this? Make a plan. So I could prompt another AI to do this. Right. And since I have that extension with the copy selected code, right? For the markdown files, which I showed you right here, copy text of selected file. It'll be really easy for me to just go right here and I'll just copy all of these, copy content, and then I could just paste it inside of Claude, for instance. So let's make let's make an app that web scrapes from Yahoo Finance and gets stock prices for ticker symbols we search. Here's our initial code. You don't have to write that. I can paste my code here. Here's an example URL from Yahoo Finance. This is legal. Yeah. Turn the complete updated code. All right. So it's generating it all in Tailwind CSS, TypeScript, and we'll be able to review this code and see if it's any good. And you could obviously get more specific and just be like, make it a certain style, or you could put images as well. Or I don't know if you want, you could paste the same prompt inside of like another editor while this one's going. It's just multiple workers competing. So this is why no one watches vibe coding because it's just like it's boring. So it's making all the different files and what is this? All right, it wants to create a Python backend. That makes sense. All right, so this is the project structure made. Let's just copy that. Ba, ba, ba. Page at C6. All right, so let's make a fast API server. So I guess this is a full stack project now. So server, we'll do main.py. So we're gonna make an HTTP server using fast API. And fast API just lets you send requests along the web. And we'll have a requirements.txt, which is gonna hold all our dependencies for this project. It's front end, blah, 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 blah. It's beautiful soup. It's parse it. Okay, where's the code? Cool, cool. Page.tsx. So I'll just do Control A and then V. Paste this all. No changes here. Layout. I don't think any changes here. Package.json. It didn't install anything. Nope. TypeScript config. Okay, now let's say I don't know how to use a fast API server to start it up, right? And so let's say I don't know that I need to make like a virtual environment to store all the packages for this local Python project server. I'll just ask the AI, right? Give me the code and any setup requirements for the fast API server. I'm on Mac. So the commands are different for Mac and Windows to set it up. So it might help to specify that. Let's see what Gemini did. All right, so Gemini suggested the same thing. Let's make a fast API server. I didn't tell it that. I don't use Gemini to be honest. I've used it like once, but it's suggesting the same thing. And it's actually giving me setup instructions for the fast API server. I didn't have to ask it that. So I guess Gemini's better. Google wins, dude. All right. But we'll just continue using Claude for now because we're already going with its approach. All right, I don't like how it did it here. It just gave me the two files in one. So these are the requirements. So this means all the dependencies this project will need. It's suggesting specific versions, but I'm just gonna remove that. So Fast API is our HTTP server. Uvicorn helps start up the server, I believe. HTTPX lets us make HTTP requests. Beautiful Soup lets us web scrape, and Pydantic is for like types in Python. Because if you know Python, it doesn't have types like a language like Java or C++. So Pydantic lets you have that. So we'll just copy the code for the main server. Paste that here. We zoom out. Okay, so right now it's saying it can't resolve these imports because we didn't install the requirements. So let's make a new terminal. So now we have two right here. And so this one will go to the server, ls cd server. So now we're in the server. We'll make a Python virtual environment using this command, Python vnv. So this means we're going to make a Python virtual environment in a folder called vnv, virtual environment. So we made that. So, and then VS Code is going to notice you did that. So they'll say if you want to select that folder for the workplace. And what that essentially is going to do is when you install requirements, it's not going to install on your computer. It's just going to install it in that virtual environment. And then we'll activate that virtual environment. All right, so now we're inside of the virtual environment. You could tell because it says VNV. And now inside of this virtual environment, we could safely install these files. So pip install. Pip is a Python package manager. And we're going to install these files. -R means recursive. So it's going to go through all of them. So it's recursive because each of those packages might depend on other packages. So you need all of them. And then we're going to try and run the server. Okay. Python main.py. All right, awesome. So it looks like it works, but the for surefire way we could test this is using something like Postman. So if you don't know what Postman is it's a way to let you test API endpoints. So we'll get this right here. So we'll make a GET request. We'll use one of the routes. And so these routes are what we would use on the front end. So let's find one. Okay, so right here, I'll zoom in. Right here, you have this root route. So if we get this, it should just send a message. And for sure, we get that. And then we have this different API endpoint. So /API/stock. Let's try to use this one. And then we have this ticker. So this is dynamic. So this will take whatever ticker you put into it. So let's try Apple stock, right? We want to see that. See if it works. Okay, error scraping data. Port Ubicorn. Okay, so we have an issue. So we'll try and fix that. Had an issue here. So it's good to test the API first before you integrate it with the front end, just in case there's any issues like this. We had an issue here for the stock route. Slightly change. Okay, so Yahoo Finance's HTML structure changed. So let's click inspect. So how web scraping works is essentially they know like the HTML. If you know the HTML structure of the website, which you could get here, then you could get like specific parts of it. Let's say the part where it shows the stock price. All right, let's see if we could just copy this entire HTML block. copy element. We'll edit our response. Here's the HTML structure. We'll just, oh man. That might be too big. Yeah. All right, so in this case, I feel like that would be too big for the context for Claude, so I'll just use Gemini and I'll just paste my prompt there. And if you're doing a bigger project, you just want to do it like feature by feature. So let's say you're doing like a huge finance app, you'd probably just want to work on smaller parts at a time, like a login system or the actual stock page. Let's try this again on Gemini. Gemini has longer context, so it should be enough to get this whole web page. Let's see if this works. If you were to paste that in ChatGPT, I don't think it'd work because it can't take that much context, which means like the length of text or input. All right, let's see. This HTML be complex and default. Here's the scope. All right, let's try this code. Sheesh. I'm just gonna get the specific HTML I want right here. So the web scraping works. All right, let's see this. Unicorn could not be resolved. Try this again. Did this not install? Internal server error. What's going on? Yeah, I'm not too sure about this because I haven't really done web scraping before. I just kind of know the idea behind it. We'll finish the project by 4 o'clock though. We got this. He's got that. All right. It's happening. My hand it's changed. Okay. This looks better. Now let's see if this works. No. All right. Let's just review this. Response model, stock data, return await, scrape Yahoo Finance. Okay, so now this is when like we might want to analyze what's going on because the prompts keep failing, right? So inside of our HTTP route to web scrape and get the stock data, we're using this function scrape Yahoo Finance. And then this function takes a ticker symbol, and then we're getting a dynamic URL. So that's the same URL like right here. We have our headers, so this all looks good. We're using this HTTP client, so this is letting our server make HTTP requests to other websites. Await client, okay. Soup, beautiful soup. So this should let us parse HTML, I believe. I've never used this. Extract company name, soup.find h1, h1 tag, company name. It's clean text. Company. Okay. What is this HTML looking like? Let me try and see how this HTML looks like. Okay. Cool. Oh, okay. I don't know if these classes are dynamic, but if they are, that might make it difficult. Okay. Because usually you could use classes to select specific parts of a website, but if they're dynamic, it's more difficult. Okay. Let's try ChatGPT here. Bing. What? Can we actually use this? Stable JSON. Okay. Wow, dude. It's not working. Better API. I think this is a last attempt right here. Dang, all right. So all three of the AI failed to do this. So they couldn't get the web scraping to work, unfortunately. So I think this is one of those rare moments where, well, let's see what's the issue. Yeah, I'm not sure right here. Is it the Python server? Hmm. No, I can't see. Select Python interpreter. Copy. Project. All right. Okay, unfortunately, I don't think I'm able to do this. So this is gonna be one of those rare times where AI has failed me, and we're gonna have to learn Python, I guess. I guess we're just gonna have to learn and do it ourselves. Dang. All right, guys. Well, that's the workshop. So the moral of the story is that you can't always vibe code everything, and you have to actually have like some knowledge. So how you could do that is you could just search how to web scrape in Python. Yeah, so you just search and then you just find it like the old-fashioned way, or you could just ask AI to teach you, and then you'll learn how to do it the right way. tweak things, experiment, and figure it out. All right, guys, that's the presentation. With vibe code with intelligence. I don't know. Thank you guys so much. See you later.